welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of Build Your Difference. My name is Pierre Walters and I'm joined today by Brittany Walters. We're the founders of Brandesk, and today we've received a few very interesting questions from viewers just like you. So Brittany, let's get started with the first question.
Yeah, sure thing. So the first question we've got is, I've published my first book 3 years ago and it hasn't sold very much. What do I need to do to become a successful author?
Wow.
That's a tough one.
Wow, yeah, that's a tough one. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, anything you're trying to put out for yourself, it can feel like so difficult. The world is so big.
Yeah.
How do you reach all these people?
Yeah.
You know, it's just you.
Yeah, and I also am curious, I mean, that particular question is based on the premise of not having sold very much.
Right.
So I want to know, what is considered selling well? Like, what's the metric?
It's true.
You
Yeah,
know,
what's the goal?
metric?
Yeah.
What's the goal?
Yeah.
Because I think we have to sort of be realistic with our expectations, especially if we're a new author,
Yeah.
especially if we're self-publishing, you know, or if this is our first foray into the market. What
Yeah.
actually is acceptable?
Yeah.
And then from there, how many people do we need to reach just to get those sales? I mean,
Yeah.
something that a lot of people don't think about, Brittany, and I know you and I have really had to kind of wrap our heads around this, was how many people do you need to make contact with and to
Right.
tell about your product or your service, or in this case, your book, before you get even just one sale?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the rule of thumb is 10%. Okay.
10%.
So the rule of thumb is, if you want to sell one copy of your book, you got to talk to 10 people.
Yeah.
Okay. Because 10% will buy. So if you talk to 10 people, one of those 10 people will buy your book. All right. And if you have that metric in mind, that therefore means that if you want to sell 10 copies of your book, you've got to talk to 100 people.
Right.
So if you want to sell 100 copies of your book, you've got to talk to 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So if you want to sell 1,000 copies of your book, you got to talk to 100,000 people.
You got a 10X it, baby.
You got a 10X it. That's a lot of people. So you got to think about those metrics and really you kind of understand when I say my book hasn't really sold a lot or hasn't really sold very, very much, what does that actually mean, and what am I prepared to do to sort of solve that problem?
Yeah.
So there's a few things that I think, you know, we can sort of practice to help sell more of just about anything, but in this case, a book. Number one, the first thing I would say is start talking about it.
Definitely, yeah. Tell anyone within your circle, and use the available channels to tell people outside of your circle, whether it's on social media, through a podcast.
Right.
Setting up a podcast,
Right.
you can do for free nowadays. There's so much you can do.
Yeah, well,
for free
the
now.
podcast is a great idea because
Yeah.
it is, like you said, it's a free option. You can record it on your phone. You can record it on whatever your computer, whatever you got going on, and then post it on the internet, and at least let your friends and family know, and let them start listening.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, the most important thing is you got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then how do you spread the news to people who may not be in your friend group, maybe people that don't know you? How do you spread the news about what it is that you've just released, your book, to people that don't even really know who you are? Well, the answer is in the question. How do you spread the news? You got to become the news. Become the news.
Become the news.
Become the news. So get your book in an article, and get that article in the news. Either write an article, a press release that talks about the fact that you have just released this book, and distribute that to the news wire so that you're published in, you know, CNN and Bloomberg Business and Digital
Now,
Journal and all this stuff.
Wait. I think you're leaving some folks behind who
Okay,
are
yeah,
watching.
might be going kind of fast.
How on earth am I supposed to get my little story about my little book to the news? like to the press, the news wire? What does that mean? What are you talking about?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, there are services that
Yeah.
you can research, that you can look up. Go to Google, type it in. How do I distribute a press? How do I write a press release? And then how do I distribute a press release? Okay, so you can talk about that by you can go search on Google to see what you can find. There's plenty of resources for you, and of course, you know what. If you need help, if you need to talk to people about it, look for people who can advise you. Okay, there's a wealth of resources out there, but what you need to know is that it's possible.
Yeah.
All right. If you can put an article together and distribute that article to the news, then you have become the news, and now people who don't know about you will know about your book and will want to hopefully check it out. Remember that 10% rule. Okay,
Right.
That's what we're aiming for. Also, social media.
Yeah.
Okay, you can run ads on social media. Brittany, have you ever run an ad on social media?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you could run ads through Facebook. You can run Instagram ads, and it's cool because you can have like a picture of your book. You can have some quotes from your book. Visuals really help people to connect to a new product or a new idea. And then you can put like a little learn more button right there on it, or buy now button right there on it. Yeah.
Well, what's an easy resource or easy tool that people can use to help them develop content or visual content
great
for
question.
social media? What's something that's simple that they can use to get on there and just put some great looking posts together and put on their social media?
Yeah, I would say like simple, just low barrier to entry is let's see. I would suggest maybe Canva. Canva's one thing.
Okay, yeah.
Or something like a Canva.
Yeah.
There's probably some other things out there too.
Yeah.
But that's you could also maybe hire a designer to help you, something along those lines. But I always encourage people to try these things themselves first. Get your hands dirty. Get into Google, learn about things like Pierre was saying, right? Like look up. How do I do this? How do I do that? Just to learn about it. And even if you decide, you know what, I'm not doing all of that, I can't do that, that's not my wheelhouse, at least now you know what you need to do. So when you go looking for help, you know who to go find to help you do it, because you have an idea of what needs to happen.
Right. And I think one other thing I'll just sort of add to this, and then we'll move on to the next question, is consider posting video content about your book on YouTube. Consider going onto YouTube, and just like you would post a podcast, go onto YouTube and talk about your book, talk about your inspiration, talk about the story, the subject matter, talk about whatever it is that you feel is going to really get people excited about what you've written. YouTube is a free resource. I mean, I don't know that there's really any excuse not to be on YouTube. Okay, so get on YouTube, talk about your book. You can do it. Doesn't cost you anything, and then share that content with your friends and family on social media. Remember, the rule is 10%. So for every 10 people that you introduce to what it is that you're doing, to what your book is, you can realistically expect one person to buy. So just take that and kind of do the math at larger and larger and larger scales.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers your question. And there's a lot of other things you can do to help market and sell a book. But what the advice that we've given are advice that we think is easy, very practical, and something that hopefully anyone can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Brittany, what's our next question?
Okay, our next question is, I am new to the entrepreneurship world. After having worked in corporate for a great company for the past 15 years, I really want to branch out and do my own thing, but I'm nervous about quitting my job and how that'll affect my income and survival. What should I do?
Okay. You use some key words there, like survival. So that's where the stakes are high right now with survival. Okay.
Well, I mean, I just to the person that submitted this question, I think the first thing I really want to do actually is commend you. I mean, really, you've been successful within corporate America for 15 years. That's a big deal, and you can really use that experience from that time to help you as you branch out on your own. So I guess I just want to start by just bolstering your confidence.
And I agree with that. And I mean, you got to start by recognizing, hey, you know what, I'm good at what I do.
Yes.
And I've got the experience. I've got the 15 years. What is the there's a metric or a saying? I don't probably a saying that says like it's 10,000 hours.
10,000 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
That's how you become an expert.
Right.
And I think over the course of 15 years, I'm pretty sure you could probably fit 10,000 hours worth of practice into 15. I don't know, as a matter of fact. I don't have a calculator, so I don't know precisely how many hours of available time are 15 years, but I'm going to assume 10,000 is there somewhere.
Yeah.
And so you've got the experience. Mm-hmm. You've got the experience. And so now the question is, how can you sort of branch out and start to really do your own thing? Well, I would say the very first thing is sort of understand who it is that you're going to serve. So now that you're not in the sort of corporate environment anymore, who is your new customer?
Right.
Get that on paper because it's not your employer unless it is. So if your employer is going to be your new customer, that's a totally different conversation.
Which isn't totally like out of the realm of possibility, right? A lot of times if you're shifting over to consulting or something of that nature, the place where you used to work can become your first client. You can then shift from being sort of an employee to a consultant.
Right, and that could be, you know, better for you.
Yeah.
And it could be better for your employer. You
That's
just
true.
have that sort of relationship. I mean, for you it could be more money. For them it could mean, you know, less liability.
Right.
You know, so they're happy to hopefully take you on. But what if your customer is not your employer, and now you have to sort of differentiate and say, you know what, my customer is going to be really it's consumers.
Right.
Okay. So you need to make that mental shift because your interaction with consumers is going to be very different than your interaction with your employer. Your interaction with consumers is now based off of, it is transactional. It is, you know, what value am I getting from you in order to pay you for your service? So now you've got to be upfront with what your value proposition is, and how much you're going to charge. So you got to get that stuff on paper. What are your services? What are your prices for your services? And who are your services going to be targeted to? And once you have that information situated, you can then put a plan together that then will advise you on, you know, building your website, if you need a logo, getting all that stuff, basically getting your branding situated, and then from there, doing exactly what we said in the answer of question number 1, which is spreading the news to at least 10 times more people as you want to convert into customers. So for every one customer you want to earn, you've got to be diligent about having serious conversations where you're really engaging and telling at least 10 people about what it is that you have to offer. Okay, so there's a whole dynamic. You can't just, you know, show up and expect to get paid for the hours that you like at your old job. Now you're working for yourself. So you got to go out and find those customers. You've got to talk about your business. For every 10 people you talk about your business to, you can realistically expect one person to give you a chance. So hopefully that'll set you in the right direction. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, but I want you to stay with us because we've got more great questions about how you can build your difference.
1 out of 4 children in America grow up without learning how to read. There is no substitute for books in the life of a child. The Friends of Richard Byrd Library are dedicated to making the library and its services known to all segments of the community and to encourage the library's use as a cultural and community center.
पुस्तकालय आएं।
Venga a la biblioteca.
Viens à la bibliothèque. We facilitate children's activities, reading programs, and affordable book sales. For more information, visit facebook.com/Friends of Richard Byrd Library.
تعالوا إلى المكتبة.
Come to the library.
And welcome back to Skills to Pay the Bills in this segment of Build Your Difference. Today, we're discussing entrepreneurship, business, and branding in today's marketplace. And I'm joined by Brittany Walters, our Brandesk co-founder. And we want to dive into a very interesting question. Brittany, I'm going to throw it to you. What is the next question?
Sure thing. So this next question, and boy, it's a doozy, is I've been following you both for several years, and I've seen you pivot your business from video services to a creative agency, and now to a wealth of other services and offerings. I admire your courage to pivot. My business as a filmmaker hasn't grown the way I want, especially with becoming easier for people to make their own videos right on their phones. Wow, that's so true. So, how should I pivot, and what should I do to continue my entrepreneurship journey in this new media market?
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
let's just take a moment and recognize the last piece of that question.
Yeah.
New media market.
New everything market.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
because it is.
Everybody can do all the things.
Yeah, it is a new media market.
Yeah.
And you got to wrap your head around that, and that means it's going to require a different set of skills.
That's true.
It's going to require, what got you here is not going to get you there,
Right.
especially if there is not here. Right?
You might have to say that one more time, Pierre.
So what got you here is not going to get you there,
Right.
especially if there is not here. So if
Okay.
there is different from
Yeah.
where we are now, then
Yeah.
the tools we use to get ourselves here are not the same tools that are going to get us to where we want to be.
Yeah.
And that is a very important thing that we have to kind of accept.
Yeah.
Okay, and that reminds me of our own journey.
Absolutely, yeah.
Close to 15 years ago.
Yeah, how we would make these great videos for folks, and people loved the videos, but then they were like, so how do people see this video? Like, what do I do with it? Now, 15 years ago, I'm trying to remember when YouTube was a thing. And
yeah.
I'm sure it was
I'm not
maybe
gonna
like
know
20
dates.
years, but around that time, it wasn't really like the go-to thing that you were like, okay, thanks for the video, I'm gonna put it here now. That wasn't like the go-to connect.
Right.
So
right.
a lot of our video clients were then like, so like, how do people see this great video?
I remember we were in this sort of phase where a lot of the promotional videos that we were creating
Yeah.
were being distributed on DVDs.
Right.
I mean, like customers would actually literally print the DVDs. They would print the DVDs and send them to the people they wanted to see the DVDs.
Yeah.
And I mean that is costly.
Yeah, to like direct mail, right?
Yeah, direct mail. I think some customers, would post videos directly on their website, but maybe not
Yeah.
like through YouTube. They would just post on their website as a direct video
And that's
file.
kind of what led us into that pivot into web design.
Right.
Where we were like, if we could find a way to provide our video clients with a website to give them a medium to which to put their video, that could be really helpful for them.
And then another thing is that in the process of making videos, and I think this person as a filmmaker probably
Yeah.
has this unique perspective, which is the process of making video
Yeah.
is such an inclusive process. I mean, there's a little bit of design that's going on in there, like graphic design. There's scripting, so there's writing going on.
Yeah.
There's if you have music, there's in some cases you're writing music.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got a composer doing music. Obviously, there's staging, there's photography. There's a lot of elements involved with just the creation of video. And I know one of the things we used to do in our videos in those early days is we would have really great graphic design work in the video itself. And I
Yeah.
know some customers were saying, "My God, can you just make our logo for us?"
Right.
I mean, you guys did this kind of cool animated logo thing
Yeah.
on the video. Can we just use that as our actual logo? So then next thing you know, we're now in graphic design,
Right.
and now we're offering logo designs because that's something that we've had to do. So like you said, web design was kind of born out of that. Graphic design was kind of born out of that. Writing was kind of born out of that, okay? By way of needing to write scripts.
Yeah.
What's another thing? Photography.
Yeah.
Born out of that.
Because people wanted like kind of stills or like behind the scenes
Right,
snapshots.
right. Well, and I mean, they would just like, look, if we're going to be on the set doing video, why not have a photographer there
Yeah.
taking pictures? Well, I mean, we got the lights, everything's ready to go. Come on,
sure.
let's do it. So, I mean, there's a lot going on
Yeah.
in the creation of putting video together, and you're in a really interesting position where for this new market, you kind of have to know those things. And not every. I mean, look, the thing that really changed the game, in my humble opinion,
Yes.
was when the iPhone came out.
Right.
And I think that was around 2012. I could be wrong, but I think it was around 2012 when the iPhone, or maybe 2011,
okay.
or maybe no,
You
or
guys
maybe
have Google.
2008. I
You
think
can
it was,
look it up on Google.
I think it was
Tell
2008.
us.
Let me just okay.
Tell us in the next
let me,
episode.
Yeah, let me just. I'm gonna do it right now. iPhone.
Oh, okay, yes, yes, yes.
release. iPhone. No, I should say iPhone launch. I'm so curious.
Is it 08?
I'm so curious. I just have to know. What was it? iPhone launch, of course, Okay, I have to say, oh, 2007.
Wow.
2007. So I was about 6 years off when I said 2012, but I was a lot closer when I said 2008.
We'll round it. It's
Yeah, so 2007. 2007 was when the iPhone was released, and that changed things.
It did.
Because suddenly now, people, customers felt empowered that they could record their own video with right in the palm of their hand. Not only record it, but they could edit it.
Yeah, in
Right.
iMovie.
Yeah, right in the palm of their hand. So now you have, video professionals like you and me who are suddenly threatened with like, well,
Yeah.
well hold on a second now.
Yeah.
You gotta. Hello.
Yeah.
You can't. This is what
But-
we do.
but-
right.
But I think the important part to recognize with that now is just because now everyone has a tool, it doesn't then make the professional irrelevant.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where we want to go ahead and get back to for
Right.
this person's concern.
Right.
Is
Right.
that-
It doesn't make the professional irrelevant.
That's correct.
But what it does do is refine what the person is a professional in.
Right.
Okay.
And how you kind of present yourself and your services and what kind of problems you can solve for people.
Right. So it's really easy at first, like what I was going through back in 2007, it's really easy to just immediately feel like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
my livelihood is being threatened.
Right.
But if you just take a step back and you realize, well, just because everyone has the tools to do something in the palm of their hand doesn't mean, first of all, that they want to.
Correct.
But then number two, that doesn't mean they have the skill set.
Right.
Okay, and so there is still a place for you. It's just that now you've got to be a little more intentional
Yes.
about how you present those skills and how you attract customers and your audience to be able to take advantage of those skills that you have to offer. And I think where I'd like to go with this is that now, your skills are not just in terms of what you can do from a technical perspective, but it's also your unique perspective. And if you
Yes.
can kind of wrap your head around the idea that your perspective is only your perspective, it is completely unique, and that is what people are paying for.
Correct.
When they are saying, hey, you know what, I want to work with you, it's because of your perspective. Then that means that you have a product, you have a service that you just need to be intentional about
Right.
engaging people with.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about, whether or not, other people can make videos on their phones,
Right.
right? Because they can't make your videos on
They
their
can't.
phones,
That's right.
and that may be what they want. So now the question is presenting your unique skill
Yeah.
as a marketable service.
That's right.
Okay, your unique vision, your unique perspective as a marketable service. So when people go to your website to learn more about the kinds of videos that you make, it should feel unique to you. It
Yeah.
should feel like your unique way of doing things, your unique perspective is what's on display,
Yeah.
because that's what's going to sell people on choosing you.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. And it doesn't hurt to just really get in there and fine tune your pitch, so to speak. Some things that professionals kind of throw around is, if you can kind of get it down to like the elevator pitch, or really summarize what it is that you do and what you're offering and what problem you're there to solve in like a sentence, something like that, then that really just makes it even more clear for someone as soon as they go to your site. They say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I make great corporate videos that can fit on your Instagram, or something like that.
Right.
Something where you really kind of fine tune. This is what I can do. I do it really well. I can do it for you.
Yeah.
And that just makes it even easier for people to understand. Oh, okay. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. That's what I need help with.
I mean,
you can do that, great.
That's a very good point, because nowadays there are very specific realms for
Yeah.
how video can be distributed on the internet, and it's not just as simple as, you can't just assume that everyone just wants, what we used to do on DVDs,
Right.
Over 15 years ago.
Right.
I mean, like you said, Instagram stories. That is a whole style. That's a whole marketplace. That's a whole
Yeah.
distribution avenue right there. Is Instagram stories.
Yeah.
Short YouTube videos, YouTube educational videos,
Right.
YouTube product reviews,
Yeah.
YouTube
Cinematic infomercials.
Yes,
Like it's a
cinematic
whole-
infomercials.
Everything's a
music
different flavor.
videos.
Yeah.
But then music videos on YouTube versus music videos in Facebook stories
Right.
versus music videos that only show on Spotify.
Right.
On Spotify video. Okay? Like there is such a specific, so you can tailor and you can say, look, I'm the guy that you want for this specific niche. I'm the guy for your Instagram stories and your YouTube educational videos. I'm the guy for that.
Right.
And so now you've really segmented your audience, and you say, now, call me when you want that, and people are going to say, oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
That's the guy I want for that.
Yeah.
So I really love
Just to
that.
to piggyback off that, I just want to say, don't worry too much about like, oh, well, if I say that, I'm going to cut out my options from getting other kinds of work. Hone it down, get people in on that, and if you do well for them for that, they're definitely going to say, oh, well, can you also do this? And you can say, I sure can.
Right.
So don't be afraid of the niche.
Right. Yeah.
Embrace it.
Yeah. Don't be afraid of the niche. The niche.
Yeah.
Impress it. So the other part of this person's question is, what should I continue to do? What should I do to continue my entrepreneurship journey on this new media market? And we've covered a lot. We've covered a lot in terms of being specific, in terms of your niche, understanding that your unique perspective is your service.
Yeah. So
that's what you want to sort of pivot yourself into selling. It's not so much the technical aptitude of I can operate this equipment, but now it's my unique perspective is what you're paying for here.
My experience.
My experience is what you're paying for. So there's that. But then there's also, this is a really incredible opportunity. Someone said to me, and this was a really long time ago, someone said to me, Pierre, the internet is the great equalizer. I mean, you could be a Fortune 500 company, or you could be just starting out. Doesn't matter, because a good website is a good website. So just focus on getting your website together.
That's so true.
Focus on spreading your message and letting people know that, guess what, you are open for business. So with that said, we want to say thank you so much for watching Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of Build Your Difference. We are excited about the surge in entrepreneurship that's happening across the country and right here in our local community. And if you're just beginning, remember the words of author Octavia Butler. It's amazing what we can do if we simply refuse to give up.